Alrighty, here we go. Emergency podcast fixture is out, and I'm telling you, for once, we're on time. 10:37 a.m. Fixture dropped 7 minutes ago. So if you're tuning into this to get an expert analysis of the fixture, good luck. You've come to the wrong spot. Me and Skeet have been frantically going through the fixture. No, we're going to give you a bit of an update, especially West Coast and Freo fans, of what is going on. Of course, you're on the Shelter FootyCast. Welcome. BackChat Studios, of course, putting this one together. Skeeter was just telling me before we turned the mics on that you're checking out a house next door to me.
Right next door, overlooking your house.
Yes.
It's outside my price range, but I did get a fair look at most inside in your house because it actually looks inside your house.
My bedroom.
Basically.
You asked yourself, please. Imagine if we lived next door to each other.
It'd be ugly.
Okay, Skeeter, a few different things going on. I will say, and this is going to be on the microphone, Jaden, I think we need to put something in here that Tom was hitting us up about. Thank you very much. But we'll come back to that, Skeeter. The Shelter FootyCast quiz night live at the Leederville Hotel, Wednesday the 27th of November. Tickets are live now on socials, both on Shelter FootyCast as well as BackChat. You can get them on our website, backchatstudios.com.au, or you can get them on the Shelter website, which is shelterbrewing.com.au. Get your tickets, get some mates together, come down. You're going to run a very tight ship, I'm assuming, Skeet. You're a walking billboard these days, I see. You've branded up, pay-wise. What's on the hat?
No, just a normal hat. I've just been doing some exercise and I've put the pay-wise.
It's about time you got there because I've been doing this for a long time. But it's good to see you, some of your sponsors all over you.
Well, I'm just trying to make ends meet as we do in this business.
Okay, very good. So you can go and get them. That is Wednesday the 27th of November. I'd also like to tell you about this one, Skeeter. So Shelter have put together a huge Southwest getaway worth over $4,000. And all you have to do to go into the running to win that, and it's the Shelter Big Beer Survey. Take 5 minutes, tell Shelter how you drink, and win an epic Southwest getaway, Skeeter. So over $4,000, all right? Don't worry about the house you're trying to buy, mate. Go and enter the Big Beer Survey. How do you drink, Skeeter?
How do I drink?
How do you drink? Just tell me about it.
Well, what I will say is I had a Shelter last Saturday and gave my daughter, Olivia, her boyfriend, taste of Shelter. And he gave it the thumbs up. So that's all you can do. Just broaden the church and get more followers, be like a cult, into the Shelter shed.
There you go, Shelter. Free advertising right on the Shelter FootyCast. Shelterbrewing.com.au. While you're there, get your tickets for the trivia night, but enter the Big Beer Survey for your chance to win over $4,000 in getaway prizes. Well, they got this big getaway. You get to stay at the Hilton. You get to go.
I've stayed at the Hilton.
Yeah, it
goes beautifully.
Very nice.
No, it's a great spot.
Did you pay to stay there?
Let's get into the fixtures.
All right, here we go, Skeeter. There's a bit going on. Before we jump right into the fixtures, I just wanted touch on a couple of things. Dusty Martin to Fox Footy, media career, blossoming.
I've got to be honest. Expand on this.
Yes,
I love Dusty as a footballer, and I've always had the view that, and being a journalist coming through, guys like going back in time, Carl Langdon, always generous with his time, and like when he's a player. Yes. Players that are generous with their time and I always embrace them more. Yourself is in that bracket, quite a few.
But a lot of the guys that are in Fox Footy now, like Jonathan Brown and Jack Rewald.
But John O'Brien was, during his days, pretty good with the media.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, whereas, Dusty comes from a different... It'd be a bit like... trying to think of someone going back in the day that, like, say, Chris Lewis, who just didn't like doing it, but then suddenly wants to do the media stuff. So Dusty, good on him. Ralph Carr's got a deal brewing there somewhere. He's not playing with the Gold Coast Suns. We said that late in the year that if Trent Cotchin's saying it's 1%, then it's not happening. So, look, I'd just be interested to hear, just because you're a great player of the game doesn't necessarily mean you translate that into a good broadcaster.
That's difficult.
Yeah, as you know, it's not. No one teaches you, really, do they?
No,
just unless you get some real good guidance from a mentor, it's tough. So I'll be interested to see how he goes. Look, Dusty didn't want to borrow the media while he's playing, but now he sees some dollars there, which is good luck to him. That's how it rolls.
Yeah, Fox Footy employers of mine. Yeah. I think he could have some of the best insights that we've ever seen because we've never heard what he's had to say about anything.
As long as he's prepared to go down that rabbit hole.
You just want to hear it. So we haven't heard it. I don't hate it. I think it's ironic.
It's out of left field given what's happened, even his final year.
But people think he's going to be like doing play-by-play commentary, right? No. He might be on the boundary with a boundary commentator that just, Dusty, what do you see here? And he gives you a 10-second line or something, right?
At about 10 grand a word.
Yeah, correct. So that is, I just thought we'd touch on that.
That's a good one. No, good luck to him. And it's his absolute right to choose whatever path he wants to go down. And footy was, as you would understand, Schoey, once footy finishes, there's a lot of question marks that come into your mind as to your future.
Yes, correct. So we've had let's get into the fixture. So we've had this drip fed to us, which I hate. I've got to be honest.
I understand why they do it.
Oh, they want more airtime. They give us the opening round a week ago, and then they give
Thursday nights.
They give us gather round, and then they give us round one, and they give us Thursday nights, and then they give us the rivalries, and then they give us just can we just have it? So we've got it,
baby.
We've got it, baby. So I'm going to go through this as it's been drip fed. Opening round. Do you like this?
Oh, it's early, and I know why they're doing it. It's to counter the rugby league and get the northern states involved. They had some good numbers last year. I can take it all. Put it this way.
People hate it.
No footy or footy on that weekend.
Thank you.
I'm taking the footy.
Did you hear this? That sounds like you've stolen that out of my mouth.
What? They don't think I've got a brain that can compute an idea of my own?
Well, at this stage,
I'm saying,
the jury is still out.
Oh, really? Considering the predictions of this year, where you said what I did.
Fair.
Well, if that's how you think. Look, it's not my favourite way to start the year, but at least we get to see some footy, so I'm taking it.
That's the only argument. People are saying, I can't believe it's at the Gabba and the SCG and the Gold Coast and GWS, and why have they got 4 games? The alternative isn't a full round. Just so you know, they're not going to bring the season forward another round. They're giving us another week of football. The alternative is no football. So if you'd like to be sitting around not watching footy, and people are thinking that it's a different alternative.
It's more a logistical nightmare for the fixturing team trying to put together the opening round one, the buys, and all the Thursday night footy. So, look, it doesn't involve WA clubs.
But the matchups are great.
Yeah.
Almost all of them.
Put it this way. That's a lot better matchups than gather round in in Adelaide. There's a full fixture there, but there's not a lot of blockbusters in Adelaide.
So let's go together. So opening round. I mean, there's brilliant matchups all over the place. Brisbane, Geelong elite, GWS, Collingwood elite, Sydney, Hawthorn elite, Gold Coast, Essendon.
It's round. Everything's exciting round one because your team's got hope. You haven't lost a game, and you're
gather round. They have gone. We know people are going. We know we're selling them out. It's actually not even about the games. It's about going there with your mates and getting on the beers.
Barossa Valley.
Right. Barossa, Norwood, straight into Adelaide City. Show your way up and down, whatever that street's called. You know.
Hindley Street.
Thank you very much. None of these matches are interesting. Port Adelaide, Hawthorn maybe, but they've chucked that at $6.50 on a Sunday. So, look, none of these excite me. I mean, Gold Coast.
Just got to put that. That's my bad, and I'm going to have to put that down to.
Excuse me, Mark Reddings, who's been in media for how many years? You tell us
30 plus.
Right. What sort of punishment does that sort of having your phone not only on but on very loudly?
It was loud, and you know what? Because my phone's not elite, as you would know, I sometimes have trouble putting to silent.
I'm surprised you don't have a cord. It's like a cord phone with a bloody antenna coming out of it.
In the old days, I used to have the big brick, and don't worry about that. Anyway,
that's what that sounded like. It's like ring. Like,
can we
dial up?
We've buried the lead here. All these fixtures we're talking about
are shite.
A week ago. It's 5 minutes ago. Let's get to the business.
Okay. Thank you, Skeeter. Thank you very much. Right. So I'm going to start with West Coast and Freo, if that's okay with you, Skeeter. I'll give you a couple of little summaries.
Yes.
Okay. So fixtures are out. I'll give you who each team plays twice in 2025. So West Coast and Freo. West Coast play Giants, Blues, Dockers, Demons, Crows, and the Tigers twice.
Yep.
Next year. I would say that's a mixed bag. Tigers, they'd be happy with. Crows should have been better this year, but they weren't. Demons, we don't know what they're going to put out. But then Giants, Blues, and Dockers, you would think all of those teams play finals next year.
So we're saying that's the Eagles' draw. And I say this with complete respect to Andrew McQualter. It doesn't matter what draw they had. Okay. On paper, it looks tough.
Boy. Yeah, no, that's fair.
And just one quick one. They don't play North Melbourne twice. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the reason being because...
Why?
Well, the reason is, and that must have been one of the deals struck for North Melbourne to come here, as we know, for those two matches. Their home match against the Eagles played here.
Yes.
That's their home match, North Melbourne's.
Yes.
The Eagles, finishing in the bottom 6 or bottom 4, you would have thought...
Should be playing them twice.
Twice, which means North Melbourne should be coming back to play an away game.
So it's a part of the deal they don't have to come back.
That's my understanding. So whether that's for 3 years or just the first year, I'm not sure. But for me, the Eagles, on paper, and North Melbourne might be flying next year, but on paper, you should be playing clubs like North Melbourne twice. And the way the deal is struck, it's fine for North Melbourne financially, and also they play a home game here. They also avoid coming back to Perth to play what should be a home game for the Eagles, given the Dockers obviously finished high on the ladder. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah. But you were pro that deal, like that's by Kangaroos. I mean, that's a brilliant deal for them.
It is a good deal for them, and you know what? Quite possibly, we haven't been through this forensically, but the Eagles have got that extra home game may well be against a fellow bottom 6 club.
Sure.
So that's how I haven't worked it out, but yes.
So that is who West Coast play twice. Let's stay with West Coast fixture because I'm just having a look at that as we speak, Skeeter. They start off with a bunch of Sunday games, 4 Sundays in a row. Their first 6 weeks, which, look, if you're a West Coast fan and you have hopes for a better season next year, they're the important rounds. If you start 0-6, you ain't making finals. In fact, if you start 0-3, you probably ain't making finals. So the first 6 rounds I thought are interesting. So they play 4 Sundays in a row, then Saturday, then a Friday night game. They go Gold Coast, Brisbane, Freo in the Derby in round 3, GWS, Carlton, Bombers. That is their first 6 rounds. Finish with a Friday night game against Essendon. How many games do they win in the first 6 rounds? Gold Coast, Brisbane, Freo, GWS, Carlton, Essendon.
They'll start outsiders in all bar one. They might start slight favourites against the Gold Coast.
That's a home game.
That's what I'm saying. It's here, Sunday afternoon, 3:10, 16th of March.
They go home Gold Coast, home Freo, and home Bombers. The other ones are away.
I still think they start outsiders in all 5 and maybe 6 of those. What would you like if an Eagles being realistic? If you could win 2 of those 6, I think you're taking it.
3 would be a very good result.
3's
if you went 50-50.
Well, let's remember where they finished. How many games they won last year? So that 3 would be an extraordinary result. I'm leaning. If you got 2, we're sort of crystal balling without much.
So after that Friday, Skeeter, they play. Their next 8 games until the bye, they play 7 Sunday games, 1 Saturday.
No surprise.
All of the rest are Sundays.
Off
and then
Broadway.
Bye in round 15.
Yeah, off Broadway. Dare I say it, there'll be Fox games that are either later in the day. Yeah, so when you finish down the bottom, as West Coast did or close to it, you don't deserve. Like, they've got no Thursday night footy, obviously.
No, not yet, because round 16 to round 24.
They're going to have to do something quite extraordinary, and no Friday night footy. Oh yes, they do have Friday night footy, but that's the double header.
So that's.
When I say double header, no, it's Good Friday after the North Melbourne. I think it's Carlton game on that Good Friday, which
6:10 here.
Yeah, so it is a standalone. It'll still be a Fox game. Just talking TV wise here, but I still think it'll be a TV game for Fox. But yeah, they do get a Friday game, a Friday look. Whether they get a second as part of those double headers that happened this year, I'm not sure. But
they play Collingwood at Marvel, not the MCG. They play Melbourne at Marvel. Yeah, they play Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. That can't be right.
Can happen.
Well, so they don't play any games
at the MCG.
At the MCG. They play Richmond round 9 at the MCG.
Imagine if both teams are not going that flash. How many people do you reckon they'll get to that one?
Richmond, West Coast, MCG, over under on the crowd. So, look, I think the back end of their fixture looks easier than the first, but like you said, they're going to be up against it this year. And to be honest, as a West Australian football fan, I'm not as interested as their fixture as I am in Freo's, because I think Freo can have a really big crack this year with the addition of Shea Bolton, and I've come out and said that.
Well, they have to, and they have to from a coaching perspective. They have to play finals. That is a non-negotiable this year. Non-negotiable. If they don't play finals, there'll be some major questions asked of a lot of key people there.
So Freo's fixture, let's go through that. They play twice: the Swans, the Power, Bulldogs, Magpies, Saints, and Eagles. So
Two of those, you go, well, Saints and Eagles, you're pretty happy to.
Yeah, I don't know if Swans, Power, Bulldogs, Magpies all feel difficult, but they should be playing good teams because they're a good side. Well, they should be a good side.
They should be. By the same token, they didn't play finals, so they're sort of in that awkward spot where they should be getting tougher games or tougher draw. But by the same token, there's going to be some clubs like Collingwood who feel they're a bit aggrieved. They finished outside the 8 and they've got one of the toughest draws.
So, as we did with West Coast, let's have a look at their first 6 rounds. They only played 2. They played 3 games at home, but one of them's the derby, and it's an away derby for Freo. So they play 3 games in a row at home, 2, 3, and 4. Round 2, 3, and 4, they're at home the entire time. So they'll be happy with that. They start in Geelong, who have won 17 of the last 18 round ones at home. The only one they lost, 2015 against Fremantle.
They've got a good record there.
Correct.
They play well there. So I was about to say, if you're looking at a team, now was it last year this year or last year they beat
last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
2024, 23.
One of those.
I think it's all. I remember the big ruckman in defence put it out of bounds on the foot. They won by not much, but they've played good footy there. So I don't think it's not, obviously if you're drawing up a fixture, that's not where you want to go first. But
but I reckon it almost, if you have to play in Geelong, that'll probably be when you want it. You don't want it in the middle of the year. You don't want it towards the back end.
It's cold and
Correct.
Horrible. Yeah,
get there, get it done, get a win,
and that can really launch your season.
You're not under travel fatigue in round 1.
That's true,
right? No. So if you're going to do that big trip, which is the biggest trip, almost the biggest trip in the AFL, because you got to fly into either Tullamarine or Avalon, and then you're on a bus. Love Sleepy Hollow in Geelong, but it's a decent way from Perth. So they played round 1 Geelong, then they got Sydney at Optus on a Sunday, West Coast at Optus on a Sunday, Bulldogs at Optus on a Sunday, Richmond Sunday gather round, and then they play at the MCG against Melbourne. So they've got Geelong, Sydney, West Coast, Bulldogs, Richmond, Melbourne. They could very easily, if they start well against Geelong, be 5-1 or 6-0 at the end of round 6.
No, you gave
they beat Melbourne. They beat Richmond.
Yeah, but you give me all this last
Beat
season,
Bulldogs. They beat West Coast.
You put all this in front of me. And look, I love your optimism, and so you should be. But you just rolled off the tongue 6-0.
I think 5-1. I'll give them. What do you think they're going to
be? In that draw, I'm taking 4-2.
Right. Okay. So they lose to Geelong and Sydney. Bulldogs and Geelong, Sydney and Bulldogs.
Yeah, I mean you've got finalists there in teams of quality. So I just
they would like to get. I think a minimum they would like is 4-2 at round 6. If you're a serious side, that's you don't want to go in there 3-3 and having lost to Geelong, Sydney, and the Bulldogs, or lost to Derby again like they did this year.
Yeah,
right.
That was disastrous in the scheme of things, wasn't it?
Absolutely. So from that point on, and we'll go up to the bye. So West Coast have the round 15 bye. Fremantle, on the other hand, have round 13 bye. So they get the earlier bye. What does that mean? I don't know, Skeeter. They come off round 6 and they play Adelaide, St Kilda, Collingwood, GWS, Port Adelaide, and the Gold Coast Suns. So that is their next 6 games, and then they get a bye. So I think that's how you'd probably try and break it down as a coach as well. Start with the first 6, a little bit of mini break, and get into the next few. They've got a Friday. In terms of games, so they go, after that round 6 game, they go Friday night against Adelaide, Friday night against St Kilda, Thursday night against Collingwood, and then they go Saturday into the bye.
They've got some Thursday and Friday night footy, as you pointed out early in the season, which is, I guess, the AFL indicating they've got some trust in them delivering. Going back to the game against Adelaide, that follows the Collingwood Essendon Anzac Day match at the MCG. So they get to play on Anzac Day, which is the Len Hall game. They do it really well. Yep. There's that. Just going quickly to the gather round. I know they've got the Shea Bolton Cup on one of those days.
And at Barossa Park.
Park.
No, that's where all the best games are played.
Yes. Off the back of that, having a look at your fixture there, the next week.
MCG.
Okay. So last season, this year, they played back-to-back games in Adelaide to reduce their travel to Adelaide. But this time they're going to go to Melbourne. When you pointed that out, they tried to minimise it by playing back-to-back games in Adelaide.
Do you know what I mean? Like, how does the AFL do that to the Dockers? Go, come together around. And actually, while you're here, why don't you go to fucking Melbourne as well? Like the non-consideration by the AFL for West Coast and Fremantle, and mainly Fremantle, it's actually embarrassing, some of the stuff that we see here. So we talked about the North Melbourne thing. Hey, great deal for North Melbourne. And I don't think you can fault it by that football club. They're going to come over here.
Financially?
Collect their millions of dollars. Travel-wise.
Probably a fair chance to knock over West Coast.
Right. So they get to do that. And then these sides don't get to travel over and play North. It's...
I think it is. Look, put it this way: that deal is still a positive for WA clubs in the travel sense. Trevor Nisbet has gone across and is trying to, not just for WA, but just make sure that the equity in the competition is more visible to everyone and maybe plays out on that front. But yeah, look, the draw is. I would say this: to put together an AFL draw,
yes,
that gives equity across the board is impossible.
Yes, I would.
So I do have some genuine sympathy for those who are in that space.
If we just have a little look at overall, it's going to be difficult to go through each club's fixtures, Skeeter, especially when we've barely looked at it. So I'll give you something. Yes. Easiest and hardest fixtures.
And we can give some credit to
Maxi Lawton at Fox Footy, gun.
Yep.
And I enjoy his content regularly. And
yes.
he does way more research, way more knowledgeable than you and I, Skeeter.
Why isn't he sitting here then?
Well, who knows?
Anyway, he's a good operator. So, yeah, we're leaning on him a bit because we haven't seen it. The other clubs' draws have gone through it forensically, but yeah.
I'll give you the easiest fixtures in 2025. So this is based on double-up opponents mainly.
Yep.
Difficult to give too much rating to how teams are going to go, but this is what this is based on. Richmond have the easiest fixture in 2025.
As they should.
Melbourne, Carlton, and Adelaide.
How does Carlton sneak into that?
Well, clearly because of who they play twice, I'd assume.
Because they got Richmond twice, I'm guessing.
They got Richmond twice. I had that up here just before. Give me one second.
But you're right. It's sometimes dependent. If you've got those rivalry games and one club's not tracking that well, then that becomes an easier draw.
Carlton play the Power, Hawks, Magpies, and then they have Bombers, Eagles, and North Melbourne twice.
Bombers, Eagles. So Eagles and North Melbourne.
There's 4 wins. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you're thinking.
So that's how that goes. And then the hardest fixtures, Skeeter, Brisbane by a fair way. So again, they play the Swans, the Cats, the Hawks, the Bulldogs, the Magpies, and the Suns twice. You'd think almost all of those could play finals.
So just off the back of that, how tough is it then to win back-to-back flags? Not just the process of it, but the draw that's going to be put in their face.
Well, do we think that it should be hard though? It should be hard, right? They should be playing the best.
I've said it. There's been some outliers, whether it's Richmond, whether it's Hawthorn, but to win consecutive flags is bloody hard.
Port Adelaide, Collingwood, and Hawthorn are the following 3 hardest by fixture. So this is why I think Port Adelaide's going to have a rough year next year. I think Port, you're going to have 2 out of the 8, Skeet. And I pick Sydney and Port early.
Yeah, I think what you said had some validity. They've been to the base of the summit. They've been climbing up the mountain. They've tried. They haven't got there.
Yes.
And you're right. At some stage, the mindset, you run out of juice as a group. Now that's your theory, and I don't think it's unwise to think that. Adelaide, you're saying, has one of the hardest draws, you're saying?
Yes.
Which flies in the face of their results. So it's a make or break year for a lot of people at that footy club as well. If they've been, I think, 8 seasons without finals. And the other one, Hawthorn, just buyer beware. I say this because of what they did this year, they suddenly get catapulted up into one of the, obviously, prime time games, which is terrific.
We got 4 Fridays in the first 14 rounds.
Yeah. So, look, all things being equal, they should be premiership contenders if they continue in that trajectory. But footy doesn't work that way, does it?
No.
You get injuries, you fall off 10%, you think you're going as well as you were. I just think Hawthorn is the question mark there. And I know they've recruited well, they're going beautifully. Sam Mitchell's a genius, as you said, but doesn't automatically translate into a top 4 finish and a premiership tilt.
Interestingly enough, there'll be 9 Sunday night games in the first 16 rounds, including Easter Sunday and the King's Birthday Eve. What do we think about that? Sunday night games.
So when you say Sunday night on the East Coast, or is it more like 4 o'clock our time, 3 or 4 o'clock? Can't be night time, 6 o'clock our time, surely. I know it's hard to look up straight away, but no. I'd say it's more East Coast night games, which would be like a Perth game starting at, say, 3:10,
yeah, correct.
Which is 6:10 their time, which finishes at 9. So that's where you get the night game picture.
I mean, so I'm just looking at West Coast fixture because that's probably the obvious place to look. They've got a 5:20. No, that's 5:20 Eastern. It's 5:20 Eastern.
That's 3:20 Perth on a Sunday?
Yeah, on a Sunday, yeah. So I'm just looking at their latest games. That's the latest game they have. So that would be the Sunday night fixture, because they're talking about over east. None of these have anything to do with Western Australia. They're not talking about Sunday night here. It's Sunday night over east.
And fair enough. And it's all to do with the broadcast. Not so much Fox, but anything Seven does, and they're having a lesser role.
Yes.
They will be looking to work on what suits Fox.
Yes.
Primarily with a bit of Seven input, I'm sure.
Yes, correct. It's going to be an interesting round. I don't hate the future from round 16 onwards being released later. I don't hate the...
No, then you can manipulate the match times.
Because we whinge about it in round 18 when they've got North Melbourne v Richmond on a Friday night. And it doesn't happen when we do this.
Say you had Hawthorn and Port Adelaide on a Friday night because we think they're going to play finals. One team's struggling or both teams are struggling, then you're stuck with it, aren't you? So I don't mind it. They do that in the NRL. It works well.
Overall, I think West Coast have been put on the scrap heap. They don't expect and I want to say the AFL and broadcasters don't expect them to be playing good footy. Are they going to be better than they were this year? Can you give me a yes or no on that, West Coast?
Yes, yeah. I think the easy answer is yes, and the simple answer is yes. And I'm going on the back of you hopefully get more out of Elijah Hewitt, who's back training.
Yes.
Get growth from Ruben Jimby. You get more game time out of Oscar Allen. You have obviously, hopefully, don't get too many injuries. That's because they're skinny as a group.
Yes.
So in November, you've got to be hopeful that we cover the game here. I want to see them better. I want to see them competitive. I want to see them win, and that's just from going to the footy and talking about it. There's nothing worse than having a 2-20 season or winning 5 games. It's not good working in the media on that base. I'm not being a West Coast sympathiser, but that's being selfish from where we sit in the media.
I think, I think Freo's fixture at first glance looks a good one. I think they've got an opportunity to start the season very well. And the mid part of that season that we read out, like the Adelaide, St Kilda, Collingwood, GWS, Port, Gold Coast, they're all very winnable games. So they could go into that round 13 bye quite close to the top of the ladder, in my opinion.
I think bottom line is, it doesn't matter what fixture you put in front of the Dockers, if they've learned anything from what happened in the game against Carlton, Port Adelaide, Collingwood, they were lucky.
Yes.
Essendon at the MCG. There are probably 5 games where you look back, and not being too Freo-centric, but you go, should have won. Collingwood game out of jail, but there's 4 or 5 games they left, say 20 premiership points they left on the table.
Correct.
If they can address how they finish games, how they handle tight situations, then that 9th or 10th place, wherever they finish this year, becomes minimum top 8 and possibly top 4. But all those have to be addressed before you start worrying about that.
I agree with that. The one concerning, hang on a second, I just got a nice little article from our boy Maxi. One concerning thing for me, which I don't love the mid-season buys because we get less footy, and I understand why. Right, let's cover that. They're staggered over 5 rounds this year, 12 through to 16. Most years it's been 3.
That's a long time.
And maybe with like a couple out on one extra, but we're going from rounds 12 through to 16 will be the mid-season buys.
So we can go overseas or something, can't we?
Correct. Now, Skeeter.
Yes. Oh, you look excited.
Yeah.
Breaking news?
Yeah, because Maxi Lawton has...
contacted you?
No, he's put an article up and he's ranked all the bloody fixtures. So we've got the winners and losers, basically.
Okay.
So if I can just pad for one more second.
Yeah, I'll help you out there.
AFL 2025 fixture difficulty from easiest to hardest. And this is based on the 2024 percentage of teams they play twice. So it goes, we read this. West Coast come in at 6th easiest.
As they should.
Yes.
Which is about right.
Fremantle, 13th easiest fixture. So I don't think that's overly good. Winners of the fixture. So Melbourne. So it's not a shock that Richmond, the Wooden Spooner, has the easy fixture, nor Brisbane having the hardest. But Melbourne, so which is around 13th, 14th, where do they finish? Somewhere there. They get a whole bunch of double ups on shitty sides. So Melbourne, big winners in this one. And they are a side that have a team that can play finals.
Capable.
Sure,
absolutely capable.
Right.
Well, it's
Petrarca,
all about,
Oliver, Gawn.
And they've they've redressed their front office and they've had changes left, right, and centre. In brief, with Melbourne, it's all about if Gawn stays healthy, Petrarca and Oliver are there in mind and in body, then they're very capable of sharp improvement.
Yes, correct. Carlton, they think, are huge winners in this one, Skeeter, which we touched on a little bit. But they were 11-4 to start the year last year, and then they fell off an absolute cliff. You remember they started getting soft tissue injuries.
Yep.
So although they started well, they'll have to play Hawthorn and Port Adelaide twice, which were top 6 sides. But other than that, they've got Collingwood, Essendon, and North Melbourne, West Coast. So they've got an easier fixture to come off the back of.
Yeah, yes. Collingwood, is I think playing them twice. I wouldn't put down as a There's a couple of easier ones there, but Maxie, he's been studying it closely. It doesn't mean a lot but you're right. I've got to say, I think the most important part of the year is that if you can get wins in the bank in the first 6 weeks of the season, it sets up. I know it's obvious, sets up your year. So if you get a slightly easier draw to launch, right.
So to finish off this skate, what happened in 2024? So this time last year, who's easiest, who's hardest, but how did it actually play out during the season? So Gold Coast was supposed to have the easiest fixture in 2024, did not make finals. West Coast and St Kilda had the 3rd and 4th easiest draw, did not make finals. So, correct.
It matters not a lot. I mean, put it this way, going back to this season, I remember one game I was adamant that Fremantle could win. It was against Brisbane, first up here in Perth, and they did that against a team that had played in the grand final.
Yes.
And the preparation was there. So there's going to be advantages for lower teams up against quality teams if you play them early and you're up and about and they're still getting their legs in operation and getting their game up and running after having the longer break. But we're just guessing, Schoey.
But we've done that all year, mate. So if you tune into this bloody thing, hey, GWS had the hardest fixture last year in 2024 at this time as well. And so they went on to... Did they finish top 4? No, they finished 5th.
Tell you what, and they butchered 2 finals.
Correct.
And you talk about 4th. Yeah, 4th.
Yeah, they did too.
Butchered 2 finals. And just quickly, you talk about Port Adelaide losing a bit of their puff. I'm just worried about GWS having gone through those 2 finals, what it might do to them and whether they can sustain it. And given they've had some losses as well in their squad.
Okay, I don't hate that, Skeeter. Hey, can we just finish? I know you're a big cricket man.
Love it.
Nathan McSweeney.
Yeah.
Which I think we spoke about. I'm still not quite sure who Nathan is, and that's fine. I'm not a massive cricket guy. But
would you want to go to the test match next week?
Yeah, the West Test.
Corporate, yeah, we come. Look at him getting excited. Look at the eyes light up.
Excuse me. What do you mean?
No, just a little. Oh, I'm organised. Yeah, but you don't not into cricket, but you come corporate.
Oh yeah, I'll come to corporate. I'll come to a box. I'll entertain everybody. I'll clap on Nathan as he comes walking out. So he's the new Test opener.
He is.
I mean, wasn't that just whoever wants it? Like
you know why? Because Cameron Bancroft can't score a run. Marcus Harris hasn't been he scored a 70.
But why didn't they play these blokes when they wanted? They opened Steve Smith. I remember blowing up about that, thinking that seems ridiculous, and that was ridiculous.
I 100% agree.
Because those 2 blokes were in form back then, weren't
they? They were playing some better cricket. Steve Smith went up the top when Warner retired to New Zealand. All you had to do was either give Bancroft or Harris, who were legitimate openers, that opportunity, instead of taking the best number 4 Australia's ever had. And I say this, he's a gun, he's a genius.
Yeah.
Why put him as an opener? Either Steve Smith needs a clip across the ear for suggesting it, and the selectors deserve a double clip for
Bailey and McDonald and all those.
Leave your best batsman where he is.
And have butchered that.
And look,
imagine how filthy you'd be if you're Bancroft.
Oh, well, they've missed their opportunity. And they have. Unless McSweeney fails all summer, they're going to give him 3 or 4 tests, you would have thought. No, you're on the money there, Sco, with your thinking with the selection. They should have blooded one of those, they should have given one of those 2 West Aussies a chance in those test matches in New Zealand. If they fail, so be it, then you look elsewhere. But as it stands, Bancroft, Harris, Renshaw haven't made runs, and so McSweeney is batting at 3, playing good cricket, gets a chance, and good luck to him. I hope he goes well.
Would Inglis get a little
Not as an opener.
As a batter. Like Labuschagne,
his numbers are terrible. Labuschagne in the last 6 or 7 test digs, I think he's got a 90. Outside of that, it's been nothing. But he's a quality player. I'm telling you now, good batsmen get a lot longer to find their groove than, say, a bowler who doesn't take a wicket for 4 test matches. So, actually, Scully, you talk that you don't know your cricket, but you make a lot of sense with that.
Okay, I'll give you some more sense. Australia lose the ODI series to Pakistan, coached by Jason Gillespie, mind you. He was disappointed with the teams that Australia are putting out, especially the last one where they brought in 5 changes and just took it not serious at all. I did not know that there was an ODI here.
Yeah,
How many people
on Sunday.
Went? How many people went? Did you go, Jaden? How many people were there?
I had my daughter's boyfriend paid hundreds of dollars to go and sit in the Victory Lounge, corporate. I said,
why did you get him a free ticket?
Well, I didn't know. Hang on, I got offered to go on Sunday, and I did. I sat at home and just enjoyed just being with my wife. You should try it. Although you were down south with Alex having a wedding.
Don't just lie to our audience. Like, what did you do? You did.
No, I did.
Your
supper
wife,
in the
an
house.
incredible lady and a beautiful person, but there's no way you were sitting around just having a great time.
You know, I just came back from the Cup, so I was a bit weary.
He was asleep. You were asleep.
And by the way, I did like the pictures from the wedding down south with Jay McGovern.
You like pictures?
Yeah, I didn't recognise your wife. She changed her hair colour. Is that right?
She's a beautiful lady.
No, but brunette now. Is that right? Is she brunette?
Yeah.
You must. I said, who's that? Olivia goes, my daughter. Well, that's Alex. She's changed her hair colour. I said, where's Schoey in the photo? I said, he's probably in the drip
I was
phase.
emceeing, mate. I was emceeing.
Well, you can't be in the photo with everyone else?
No, I was trying to organise the wedding. Sorry.
Okay.
So I was just setting the scene for the entire wedding. Sorry about that.
Fair enough. Okay.
Knocked it out of the park. We're done. We're absolutely done. There you go. Look,
these are fixtures.
did we give you much insight?
Well, at least you get an idea of where the Eagles and Dockers are playing, the times.
I'm going to Rottnest, by the way, right now. Rottnest. I'm going to take your boat over.
You're too.
Do you have a boat?
Mate, if anyone, I'll be like, you remember Gilligan's Island? That would be me.
No, I don't remember Gilligan's
Well, no, you wouldn't.
Island.
Gilligan's Island was a show about a boat that went out and got stranded, say, at Rottnest, and no one knew how to get back. There was a professor, there was Gilligan, there was a model, there was a couple of good-looking...
Who would you have been?
I was
The idiot.
Gilligan, yeah. The absolute numpty. I admit I'll be the numpty. People are trying to change tyres and get... Yeah, I'm useless.
Mate, remember, jump on, grab some tickets to the Shelter FootyCast quiz night at the Leederville Hotel, 27th of November, and sign up to the Shelter Big Beer Survey for your chance to grab that giveaway, the Southwest Getaway, worth over $4,000, Skater.
Should be great.
Bye-bye.